Hello, everybody. It's Sunday. My people are all in the house taking a nap. Got nothing going on. The pool is a little over full, so I'm draining the pool down a little bit. Don't let me forget to go. Turn that pump off here in a little bit. I wanted to talk about propaganda and BS. Hey, John Nicolosi. How are you doing during the, what did you call it? During the quarantine. Hey, Alex Dye. Had a few people that follow me on different podcasts and stuff. Hey, Ron. Send me some messages lately that were pretty interesting. I had one send me this. I'm going to protect these people's identities. Happy pandemic. That's right. Happy pandemic. I'm going to protect these people's identities that sent me these goodies, but it's really interesting to me, the things that I get that people email me. Let me see if I can find it. A guy sent me this today. Healthcare worker, and he says, let me see here, I'll turn this sideways and see if I can crop out a piece of it. He says, these are the statistics they were recently given at his hospital, so you can guess where the guy's from. But if you look at these numbers on these, I know this is backwards here on this. And you guys probably can't study that here on this live, but I'll tell you what this gentleman and I both observed is that the numbers and the height of the bar graphs bear no relationship to each other. There's no scale on this. And the height of the bars have nothing to do with the number of deaths or cases. This chart is pure propaganda. It was propaganda that was created for release to medical professionals, and it was designed to mislead them. People are very, very busy. They would look at this, only see the relative height of the different bars, and draw conclusions from this chart that the numbers on the chart actually would not support. We're being manipulated at every turn, and got to keep your defenses up, guys. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if it's a conspiracy to manipulate, or if the asshole that created the chart simply doesn't know anything about math. That's a distinct possibility, isn't it? That's a distinct possibility. But I know that we've got to be really careful, because everything we get needs decoding and could be misleading. Another little piece of propaganda that I've been thinking about lately, and I've talked about this on Barbell Logic, is when I famously got in the argument with Reynolds about that piece of shit propaganda movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Where we're told, when we're little kids, we're told, when you go to the bank and deposit $1, the bank would then loan that dollar to Farmer Jenkins, who can use that to help buy a tractor, so that he can produce products more efficiently and productively, and you will receive products at a lower price as a result. So you and the bank are performing the economy an enormous service in depositing, and the bank is a responsible lender, and etc. You guys know the fiction. But I've always known that couldn't possibly be what's happening, because we know that no one has any money in the bank. What's the average American savings rate? who even knows nowadays? It probably in the recent past was probably $1,100-$1,200 per person that was saved in a bank. Well, how could all of this debt that we have be the result of this minuscule savings? I've got to move out of the sun, guys. I thought about putting on a cowboy hat. Got to see if I can get up out of the sun. Yeah, how could all this lending and debt that we have in our economy be offset by these deposits that we're putting in the bank? Well, it's not what's happening. That's not what is happening. The bank just writes a loan. They book the loan on one side of their balance sheet. They take the credits. Well, that's not exactly what they are, but they take the amount of the loan and post it as a deposit in your checking account or your savings account, and in doing that, they are creating money. Some money is created by printing, but most of it's created by creating debt, and that ain't good. That ain't good. I've been thinking a lot about currency lately and trying to figure out what to do with my own money, trying to get this right. Seems like we've got one chance here, and the more I think about it, the more I realize I don't know what the rules of this game are, and I don't know who the players are. I don't know where the goalposts are, but one thing I do know for sure is that no one's telling the truth, and it's making me a nervous wreck. Currency is almost at its core is really an IOU. That's almost all it is when it's at its best. We used to have gold and silver certificates that could be used as currency, and it was an IOU that was redeemable for specie, for metal, at the bank. You could take a silver certificate to the bank, and they would give you $1 or $5 or $10 or $20 worth of silver in exchange for it. So it was an IOU. The piece of paper essentially said, I owe you this much silver. So I could take an IOU for silver and then transfer that IOU to you, and then you might swap bread to me for it, you know? Well, pretty soon you realize that nobody redeems the money, the currency, for silver, but they're exchanging IOUs. But the IOUs have real value, and they just exchange those IOUs, and people are able to get bread and eggs and all the things they need. Pretty soon, that value at the window where you can redeem it for metal gets stripped away, but it's still an IOU. It's essentially IOU whatever this dollar bill can buy. So I give you a dollar bill, and then you can go exchange it for another dollar's worth of stuff with somebody else. They are still IOUs that have a universally, I don't know about universally, but a widely agreed to value. If they really are IOUs, then issuing them by the creation of debt is completely backwards from, it's completely the opposite of how proper money should have been created. Proper paper money should be notes payable in silver or gold or some other asset on demand in fixed locations, and that's the way it got started. So you had to have gold. If you had extra gold or more gold than you used to have, you could print more money, more paper, more claims on the gold. So the expansion of the money supply required expansion of certain physical assets. Makes good sense to me. But now, the money is created not to represent more physical assets, but because of the creation of additional debt. If you look at accounting in banks, the debt is an asset to the bank. If they write you a mortgage, that mortgage is an asset to the bank because they know that you're going to make future payments on it. So to them, it looks like an asset. To them, it looks like a solid thing to do. But to the rest of the world, we know that loans are dangerous and they're liabilities. If my brother-in-law owes me $1,000, I'm always in danger that he's not going to pay me back. That's a chicken I ain't going to count until that egg completely hatches. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We've gone from creating currency based on owning assets to creating currency because we've issued further debts. The system's so fucking broken, I don't even know what to do with it. Another follower of mine on Instagram sent me this earlier this week. I'm not going to name the guy. He told me he would do a Scott Stream podcast with me. He's an interesting fellow. He's a staffer for a senator, and let me see if I can go find this. I'll just read it to you. Very interesting guy. He sends me interesting things from time to time. He said looks like, he sent this to me on Friday. He said, looks like FF are picking up the tab for 4 months since they are in good shape. So FF is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Those are the federal commercial loan or federal real estate loan underwriters. They're the one. When you get an FHA loan, it's either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac that are underwriting those loans. He says, looks like FF are picking up the tab for 4 months since they're in good shape. So much for pulling them out of receivership. How long before the U.S. goes bust? So what he means by that, he says they're looking at picking up the tab for 4 months. Freddie and Fannie essentially take on and service most of the, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not the most up to date on this, but they essentially take on the responsibility for all the FHA loans that are made in the country, and that's probably most of the mortgages. There are people that invest in Fannie and Freddie investment instruments. As the loans are paid off, those instruments yield a little bit of a return, and then Freddie and Fannie pay off their investors every month, from the way I understand it. He says, I've only been in the Senate since January 19, and it looks like it's on its last legs, this country. So I said 4 months of mortgage payments across the board, and he clears it up with me. He says about 1.5 million of FHA loans are in forbearance right now. That's not dollars. 1.5 million FHA loans are in forbearance right now. The mortgage bankers wanted a Fed liquidity facility to sell debt to, but FA said no. They said Freddie and Fannie would continue to make payments to the investors on behalf of bankers for 4 months. So the banks aren't required now to pay the investors who invested in the bank for 4 months. The banks just got fucking bailed out again. He says, and you'll not see any of this in the news. I wouldn't know anything about it if this insider hadn't sent it to me. He says there is zero guidance on all this paper, or commercial or residential, and on what happens when the forbearance is over. Do the borrowers owe the bank or the landlord? Do they owe it all at once? What? And so this guy runs budget appropriations, NDAA, banking, housing, and guns for a particular senator. He's an interesting guy. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on up there, but Freddie and Fannie aren't able to pay their investors, and rather than give forbearance to the people who borrowed the money, they have given it to the bank, and so that their responsibility to pay the investors has been done away with, at least for 4 months. And again, the middle class is going to end up getting butt fucked on this thing, is my guess. Meager findings said, start buying more physical goods before our currency's valuelessness becomes apparent to more people. Maybe. If there's something you need, go buy it. On other of these live streams I've done in the last couple of weeks, I've talked about how I think that there may be, excuse me guys, that there may be deflation coming, and I do believe that. I actually do believe there could be inflation coming. The smoker's over there. It's got a pork butt in it. It's going to be delicious. Because I believe that since right now most of the money is different than currency. Most of the money in the system is created by issuance of debt. As these debts aren't paid off and they eventually go delinquent and they're eventually written off either through some sort of debt jubilee legislation or de facto jubilee because people can't pay them, and if they can't, they won't. Either way, those debts will go away. And since the money is created with debt, if the debt cannot be paid off, that money is going to be, to the degree to which it isn't paid off, will be destroyed. Too long, don't read. As debts go delinquent, the money supply will shrink. If the money supply shrinks, there will be deflation. And I think that's true. I think there will be deflation. I think and I've said this on live streams recently as well, I think the market is showing us that there is going to be deflation. When you look at the stock market, you can go pull up a graph of the stock market's behavior over the last 45 days or 60 days, and then pull up a graph of gold, silver, platinum prices, Bitcoin prices over that same period, and you'll see that they move almost in concert. I'm not aware of that happening in the past. Typically, when the stock market's up, gold is down. When the stock market dips, people flee from it, and they go to gold, and the gold price goes up. That hasn't been happening. And I was very, very confused about that until I started to think about all of this in terms of a deflationary cycle. And if we are in a deflationary cycle, then the thing that we're seeing is appropriate. The gold price is moving in concert with the stock market makes more sense, I think. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know. It makes me crazy. Remember, the pool's still draining. We'll have to go back there together and flip the pump the other direction. Yeah. Any questions about this blabber that I just made for, I don't even know how long, 15 or 20 minutes? Anybody want to push back at me? Where am I wrong? That's one thing I want to know. Where am I wrong? When I first walked out here, everybody was running leaf blowers. I hate leaf blowers. Everybody runs those goddamn 2-cycle leaf blowers. And it's like, just use a rake or a broom. I don't understand how leaf blowers make things better. I don't get it. But apparently we can't use a rake or a broom in the United States anymore. Breakdown impact of inflation for normal folks. Well, deflation certainly makes it difficult if you have debt. Because every time you make a payment, you're paying back the debt with more and more valuable money. Let's say you borrow $100 to buy something, a chainsaw. And then you borrow the money, and you borrow it for 12 months, let's say, and there's deflation, like significant deflation. Maybe in month 6 you could buy a new chainsaw for $90 because prices are falling. It's not just prices are falling. The value of the money is actually increasing. So $90 will still buy you a chainsaw, let's say, for just in our example. So that means you end up paying more and more and more for the chainsaw as you pay it off. So it gets more and more difficult over time to make your payments. That's why in Europe you'll see some interest rates that are negative right now, because they're clearly in a deflationary cycle. So it makes it harder and harder and harder to pay off your notes. Secondly, because the price of the chainsaw is dropping, in our example, it went from $100 to $90 over a 6-month period, people are going to avoid making purchases, because the longer they can put it off, the cheaper the stuff gets. That will decrease demand for products. It's a trap, and it will decrease demand. You may have all seen, let's go look at our deal. Let's go look at my pump while we talk about this. You may have seen the curve in your economics textbook, the supply and demand curve, or the supply and price curve. The higher the supply is and the lower the demand is, the lower the price. If you can make, here, I gotta fix this pump. If you can decrease, if the supply stays the same and the demand goes down, like it would do in a deflationary cycle, the prices will fall. There are fewer people that want to buy the thing. So that the sellers have to reduce the price in order to get them to sell. What the hell is going on over here? I've never heard my deal make this kind of noise. That's ridiculous. So it'll reduce demand, it'll reduce prices. There will be as the demand is reduced, the demand for labor will go down, because employers just won't need as many people to work to create the products, because nobody wants to buy the products. That will create an oversupply in labor. If the oversupply in labor happens, wages will go down. So as wages go down, there'll be less money available to chase the products that are available. That will drive the demand down. Every single thing that drives the demand down will drive the price down, and it's a difficult spiral to get out of. Do salaries break down? Pat says, do salaries stay the same if that happens? No. There'll be people getting price cuts or salary cuts. There'll be people that are fired. Then they'll rehire those at lower prices. We're already seeing it. Uber has cut payments to their contractors. They've already done that. I've been seeing deflationary personnel moves anecdotally for about 3 years now. I think we all probably know stories where somebody who's a very experienced person in their industry, who's 50 to 58 years old, gets offered a retirement package or something, and leaves the company, and then the company hires 2 younger people at a lesser price to fill that same role, because they're shifting the salary point down for those same positions. If the money supply goes down, will that not be a good thing, as production of goods and services will also fall with the pandemic? I don't know about that, Jay Foot. If money supply goes down, will that not be a good thing as the production of goods? Yeah, it could be a good thing. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I was born in 1974. My brain works when it thinks about inflation. My brain doesn't work so good when I think about deflation. So I'm not real sure about that. Maybe. Am I optimistic about 2 years from now, 5, 10 years? Not 2. not 2 years from now, 5, 10, I don't know. We're all going to be okay around here. I don't know. I don't really know, man. Felipe? Hey, Coach Cam. Hey, Coach Cam. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm. I don't know what I don't know what's gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen. I certainly could be wrong about the deflation thing, but I know one thing for sure: things aren't going to be the same. They're not the same. They're not the same. So to think that they would be the same is just pure wishful thinking, or even worse, delusion or craziness. So I don't know what's going to happen. What do y'all think? Ever doing an OGB podcast on Lonesome Dove? We will. It's such a long book. The OGB podcast that comes out Thursday is about Conan the Barbarian. Some of those stories. It's going to be a fun one. Have a listen. Yeah. Give us something positive. Well, no, I haven't lifted today. I've been sick, man. I've been sick. I went and did rack pulls yesterday, like light ones, like 275 rack pulls. And I'm still pretty sick. I'm still fairly sick. And I could barely hold on to them double overhand. I've been ill. But something positive. Deflation could be positive. You know, we all remember, well, anybody that's been around very long remembers when prices were lower and your dollar bought more. And you know, if there's deflation and you save $1, then just the act of saving $1 means that a year from now you'll be able to buy more stuff with that $1. So deflation will reward people for being thrifty, and those rewards that they get will be fairly risk-free. You know, if you make an investment to get a return, the return has 3 components classically. One is something to keep you ahead of inflation. 2, the second component is something to compensate you for your cost of capital. And 3, a risk premium. And under deflation, you get a reward for without having that risk premium piece in there at all. Won't all the printing devalue the money? No, because there isn't money printing going on. You've got to understand that that's not what happens. It's not printing presses. There is the Federal Reserve Bank and the members of the Federal Reserve Bank issue debt to people to inflate the money supply. They're not printing. They're creating more debt. As a result, if debts are wiped out, the money supply, if they create $1 trillion worth of debt, but $1 trillion worth of credit card debt goes belly up, that's a zero-sum game. Meanwhile, demand for almost every good across the board is down, including demand for labor. So as demand goes down and the money supply stays the same or decreases, there will be deflation. We do not print money, guys. That's not how it happens. The lifting model during these times has been harder to kill. Training during this stream only reinforces this for me. Not fun to hear, but thanks for your observations. Well, thank you, Meager Findings. We're not going to die, guys. We're not going to die. We're going to go to the grocery store and not going to be able to buy all the stuff we want someday. They're going to be out of pork loin, and you're going to have to buy Spam or some shit, or you're not going to be able to get 2 dozen eggs. You can just get 1 dozen egg, you know, and stuff maybe get simpler, and I think that might be good. Felipe says, I'm going to save $1 to furnish my garage gym in a few years. Got to buy a house with the garage in the process. Yeah, housing prices are going to come down. They're going to start coming down. Unless they start charging us for having cash deposits as a way of encouraging us to spend it to prop up prices. Well, there's going to be a bunch of that kind of stuff happen, I think, and J-Foot. There's been a move to stamp out the use of cash. It's hard to audit. It's hard to tax. So on. There's been a movement to stamp out cash for a very long time, and that will be afoot. But the thing is though, that if you have to use their credits, if you can't use actual cash, and you have to use their credits, and the published value of the credits doesn't reflect the value in the real marketplace, people will start using something else. And barter, Bitcoin. Yeah, Arbonne says that'll be the end of it all. Nope, it'll be the beginning of it all, man. It'll be the beginning. Got a hangnail here that's hurting me. The beginning and the end of it all. Yeah. Risking repeating myself. There's this idea of the reversion to the mean in terms of investment yields. They say, well, the stock market pays 7%, 8% per year through its history, and then it reverts to its mean. So if it makes 12% one year, it'll probably make 5% the next, and it evens out at 7. And that reversion to the mean rule seems to be a pretty good way of thinking about lots of different things, but particularly investment yield. And if the reversion to the mean idea really works, particularly for money, hello, Miss Buchanan, particularly for money, inflation has been high for a very long time. If you don't think 2 or 3% inflation is high, get out of my channel. But inflation has been high for a very long time. For most of history, there was almost no inflation at all, zero, because we used metals. From time to time, certain tyrants and emperors have debased their metal coinage, but that always goes away. So, if you believe in that reversion to the mean thing, then that means we're probably due for some deflation for a time. How is the production of Bitcoin halving in the next 2 weeks going to play into this? Won't the price of Bitcoin increase? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, it might increase, but it doesn't seem to be increasing that much. See, here's the thing. The price of Bitcoin, because we live in a dollar-denominated world or a euro-denominated world, everybody thinks of Bitcoin in terms of, a Bitcoin's worth $6,200 or whatever the price is right now. That's not what it's worth. Bitcoin is worth what it will buy, right? An ounce of gold is not worth $1,500. An ounce of gold is worth whatever an ounce of gold will get you. So when the price of gold goes up, what that actually means is dollars buy less gold. It's still an ounce of gold. It's still one Bitcoin. So if you see the price of Bitcoin move, it's really it could be a reflection of the value of the Bitcoin, but it's more than likely at this point, I think. People won't agree with me on this, but I don't care. I think it's actually more likely a reflection on the value of the dollar. We're going to see a point where I think everyone agrees that old established currencies are more volatile than something like Bitcoin, and we may be there. I saw gasoline the other. There's gasoline here in Oklahoma for 97 cents a gallon last week. What does that mean? I know that OPEC and just prospective OPEC Plus are tampering with gasoline prices. Or I'm sorry, crude production. I also know that gasoline demand has dropped by, like, I've read 80 to 90%. I don't know how much. But you know, how much of a price is the actual supply and demand data for that product, and how much of it is about the value of the currency it's denominated in? I don't know. But I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. The only thing I think is true, that I know is true, is that everybody's lying. And the ones that aren't lying are telling what they think is the truth, but they don't know. 'Cause I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Fuel price at the pump dropped in the UK about 15 to 20% in recent weeks. Yeah. Hey, Rhino, it probably ought to drop more. Nobody's driving anywhere in the UK. Hello, Andrew. Yeah, nobody's driving anywhere. Yeah, food markets are getting ready to be really whacked out. People are destroying hogs right now, burying tons and tons of produce with backhoes, destroying hogs. I know, hey Bertrand, I know some beef farmers, and they're playing out two different strategies. The beef people are. One, like right now is the time that people will normally sell their feeder steers, and they're 1,100-1,200 pounds, something like that, and they're 18 months to 2 years old or something, and they'll sell them right around now. But the prices are really, really low. And I know and so a lot of people are just going to keep them and feed them out. They're like, we're going to feed them out to the fall. We can feed them for pretty cheap because we can feed them on grass all through the summer. We can put 300 weight on them, and they're going to get an extra $85, $90 a hundredweight for these calves or these steer in the fall, because the prices are so low right now. They're like, well, we'll just wait. So there are a large number of beef cattle not going onto the market right now. They're being held back, and that's reducing the supply, and that seems to be appropriate because nobody wants to buy them. That's why the price is so low. But they're being reserved right now, and they're going to be on the market in the fall. Maybe the demands will be back up. Restaurants have have enormously more food waste than home mess halls do, and maybe that stuff will fire back up, and the beef demand will go back up, and maybe the prices will rebound. I don't think they will, because the fall crop of a steer will still be there, plus the spring crop will have been foreborn and will hit the market in the fall. I don't know, but if you've got grass and you've got water and you can feed your steers out, you're going to take that risk, maybe. Then I have an acquaintance, his name's Clint, and I talked to him yesterday, and they sold several hundred steer. He's like, prices were low. He didn't make any money on them. In fact, I think he lost money. He didn't tell me that. He didn't tell me all of his business, but I know prices are low. And he said, I'm not going to feed them out. We're not going to tend fence on them. We're not going to have to worm them. We're not going to have vet calls. We're not going to have all these problems that we're going to have watching 600 head steer this spring and summer, and then try to take them in the fall, and then have the prices be low again anyway because of how everybody's holding on. So people are taking a bath now. They're going to take a bath in the fall. People are buying their pregnant heifers right now. They're going to have calves, and it takes 40 weeks to have a calf. They're going to have calves in 30 weeks. And they're going to be shooting steers in the fall and burying them, probably, or sending them to the rendering plant. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with the food supply. It's fucking nuts. Hey, Nathan. Yeah, I don't know what's going to go on. Man, nobody stole it. I gave that thing away. We cut it off. We cut that off. Hello, Ajax. Yeah, we cut that all off. I don't know what's going to happen with food. Beef takes a long time to get on the market. It's like whiskey, you know. You make some whiskey today, and you can sell it 5, 6, 7 years. And you know, so you've got to judge what you think the market will be like 5, 6, 7 years if you're making whiskey. Well, it's highly. You got to speculate a lot to be successful. You got to speculate correctly a lot. And the beef's very similar. It takes you 40 weeks to get a calf here. It takes you 18 months to 2 years to feed one out and get a beef calf out. So it's going to take 2 or 3 years for the market, the beef, for the protein market, to figure out what's going on here, I think. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, we used to pay, when Charity and I got married, we used to pay $2.99 a pound for ribeye. And I don't, you know, you rarely see it for less than $6.99 now. And that's only been 23 years. So, you know, the inflation in meat prices has been just too high. Too high. So maybe that stuff's going to come back down. It's going to be hard on farmers, though. It's going to be really hard on beef farmers. Well, everybody. Pork processing is cutting down. They're going to run into the same problem. Hogs don't take as long to feed out. That'll smooth out a little faster. Tyson has cut down on chicken processing. They're going to be destroying lots of people. Arkansas are going to be destroying a lot of chickens. But you know, the chicken market can rebound. You can get from egg to tendies on your plate a lot quicker. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Haven't seen price drops other than gas. Yeah. The reason you're not seeing the price drops in the food is because the supply isn't going down. It's because the supply is going down in the face of the shutdowns of meat processing plants. You can go read about that. There has been an enormous amount of slaughterhouse, frankly, capacity lost in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. So they're just not slaughtering food. And if they're not processing beef and getting it into restaurants, getting it into stores, and getting it on your table, the farmer can't sell his feeder steer. So he has to destroy it or sell it for free, sell it for cheap. So there's a disconnect because the supply chain is broken. There's a disconnect between the spot price that the farmer's getting at the auction and what you're paying at the grocery store. There's an uncouple there. It's going to take a while for that to fix, if it ever does. It will. Something new, a new normal will appear, but it's going to take a while for that to happen. There's about, from what I understand, nationwide, there's about 2 weeks worth of cold storage capacity for foodstuffs, and I think the prices could start moving around and getting odd here in another week or 10 days. Yeah, go buy another half beef. You know, if you know somebody that's selling them, give them a decent price for the thing, and go buy one. Tell you what, you might ought to can some of it up. Don't put it all in the freezer. You ought to can some of it up. People used to can a lot of meat. Yep. I don't trust that freezer shit. Not entirely. What else, y'all? My baby boomer neighbors over here playing Jimmy Buffett. So gross. Can you hear it? These baby boomers over here next door moved in. They moved here from California, and they paid way too much for the house because they were paying retarded California prices for real estate out there. They paid way too much for this house, and they remodeled it and made it look like a California house, but we're not in California. And they're just delusional baby boomers. I mean, they've got an RV and 4 new vehicles, and there's just 2 of them, and they'll be dead soon, and they don't know it. You know, I've never seen that they have any children or grandchildren. Canned beef isn't bad. Canned chicken is odd. Canned beef ain't bad, man. It's in its own gravy. It's like soup, like stew or something. Freezer comment, is that due to electrical delivery concerns or just possibility for the freezer to die? All those things, Meager findings. Paper Crosspod says, some markets will suffer next year as well. I manufacture roller coasters and amusement parks. They buy their replacement parts a year in advance. We couldn't be busier this year, but next year we'll be hurting. Yeah. Yep. That's interesting. That's an interesting business to be in. You guys may have to make the switch to narrow gauge railroads and light rail. And when I say light rail, I mean like 1920 style trolleys for small communities. Baby boomers do just live in a fantasy world, don't they? Crank up their Jimmy Buffett, pretend like they're somewhere else, pretend like 70's the new 40. Pretend like the world's not burning. Pretend like their kids like them. It's amazing. What else, lads? Been having a hard time drinking enough water. Like I said, I've been feeling poorly. Well, I'll save this thing, and I'll try to. Instagram doesn't always let me do that, and post it. If you came in late, there were a couple of things I had some listeners of some of the podcasts send me that are kind of little interesting insider tidbits that I shared at the beginning of the stream. You guys might be interested in. Hey, Zach. They're playing that music over there like teenagers or something, because like other people want to hear it. Oh, fuck these people. I'm gonna have to go have a confrontation, I guess. But we gotta get out of town. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I'll go over there here in a little bit, and I'll tell them, hey, I know y'all are having a good time and all, but we're not over here. We don't really like to listen to your music. So if you could keep that down, and they'll get mad at me and, whatever. And they'll be like, gosh, that guy's such a dick. But I've been listening. I've never talked to them about it. And they've been doing this every nice day for about 2.5 years. Listen to that shit. I was listening to this videos, or I watched this video the other day. YouTube said you might like this, and I clicked on it, watched it. It was about this lady named Carol Kaye, Kaye, and she was a bass player in L.A. and she was a session musician, and she played bass on so many songs from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that like Good Vibrations. I mean, just so many, hundreds and hundreds of top 40 pop and rock and roll hits. She played bass on dozens of TV soundtracks that you've heard, like the Mission Impossible TV theme and all this stuff. But hell, she was born in like 1933 or something like that. She's in her mid 80s at this point. She's older than the baby boomers. And so when in the in the 1960s, when the baby boomers were listening to their rock and roll and their pop music that they thought was so counterculture and the voice of their generation, they were often listening to people like her, and they didn't know it. And she was their parents' age. These baby boomers have been they completely believe everything they've been told. Carol Kaye was, I think, a mother of 3 sitting in a music studio in like 1966 recording on a Sonny and Cher album. And or 1967 or whenever the hell it was, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. She's on that album, and so these baby boomers are listening to that, thinking, "Oh, this is the voice of my generation." Blah blah blah. No, it was mature adults that had mastered their instruments, producing a product that was marketed to them as children to buy. But to this day, they believe everything they've ever been told. And they're like, don't trust anybody over 30. What the fuck? It's so bizarre. I don't know. The people following the live went down. I must have lost some boomers. Did I lose some boomers? My parents aren't boomers, by the way. Well, it depends on who you talk to. My mom and dad were born in 45 and 47. Some people say that just anything after World War II was a baby boomer, but other people say it didn't really start until 50 or something like that. But whatever it was, my folks were here from Oklahoma, where everybody was poor and the culture was behind 10 or 15 or 20 years. The Great Depression didn't end for my mother's family until probably 1970. My grandmother didn't have an indoor toilet until like 68. So my parents are not boomery. They've been frugal. They've been fortunate enough to ride the economic prosperity wave that the boomers all rode, but like culturally they're not. My mom and dad both, hate the Beatles. When everybody was at Woodstock, my mom and dad got up and went to work that day, and hate all them and everything they stand for. But when I run into them, I just there are always a few good people that were born in that generation, but Jesus, just the mass delusion and just decades of endless irresponsibility is just terrible. And they're going to reap it. They've cried for open borders and so on, and economic prosperity since 65, and their left-wing agenda, and they will die in nursing homes being cared for by third worlders, and their kids won't talk to them. They're like, oh, we're going to spend their inheritance. Yeah, good, you do that. You do that, and some Guatemalan's going to wipe your ass and fucking close your eyes when you draw your last breath there at the fucking Shady Pines retirement home. It's going to be great. I guess I got rid of all the boomers. We're still at 13 followers. What else? How's everybody's training? Anybody have any predictions? Anybody want to pile on the boomers? My kids will tell me, okay, boomer. And I'm like, you don't understand what a boomer is. My kids don't even know. They just think it means somebody older than they are. It booted you off a few times. I bet it did. They start doing that shit. When I start talking about certain things, I lose follower count. Hey, you take care too, Rhino. Enjoy your Sunday, brother. Booted you off a couple times. Ridiculous. Maybe tomorrow we'll do one about technocrats and charitable foundations. Maybe we could do that. Thankful for the home gym right now. You bet. You know why? You provided for yourself. You weren't renting equipment for a monthly fee from somebody else. So now you have free use of something that's valuable to you. Everybody just calls it a home gym. No, it's having the shit you need. That's what it's called. It's self-reliance. It's great, man. Good for you. Zach says, I like how we're supposed to have health care like Canada, but if you suggest merit-based immigration, everyone flips out. How about no fucking immigration? How about that? How about zero? Merit, fuck them. We're full. There's 30 million people out of work. Have your own people hire you. Get the fuck out. There's 30 million people here out of work, conservatively. No legal immigration, no merit-based immigration, no immigration. GTFOH. The repatriations start next week. We have no obligation to the rest of the world other than to not harm them. That's it. Now this thing's telling me 1:46 remaining. If another question comes through, hey Craig, saying 1:40 remaining. Another question comes through here pretty quick. I'll nail it. Otherwise, we'll jump on tomorrow. We'll talk about technocrats and maybe a little bit about the history of charitable foundations like the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, and so on. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about how maybe we're turning from a oligarchy into some sort of weird technocracy. I don't know, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm completely confused by everything going on. Enjoy these. Thanks for putting them on. Hey, thank you, Brendan Bertrand. Tell people to come and follow me, and we'll keep on talking. I want people to pull their head out a little bit and try to figure out what's going on. Help me figure it out. Because like I say, the only thing I know for sure, I'm a little different than Socrates, is that everybody's lying. All right, guys. It's got 33 seconds. I'll talk to you all soon. What sounds good? I'll try. I'll announce when. Okay? I'll do that. Maybe around 5, something like that. I'll announce when. Talk to y'all tomorrow.